Hey y'all, it's Alexander Creek, astrologer and intuitive. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome back to the audio version of the podcast, wherever you're listening. Thank you. And today we're going to be talking about Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. This cycle is taking place from the 26th of November to December 15th. So we'll be talking about generally kind of what we can expect from this energy, and also do a reading for your sign, specifically the rising sign. And remember that I have everything in timestamps. If you're on the audio version of the podcast, or if you're on YouTube, you can simply click into one of those chapters and go right to the reading of your sign. However, I would encourage you to listen to the general portion first, so you have more of an understanding and idea of what to expect. So let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, so I titled this episode Embracing the Mess, or Embracing the Glorious Mess. I'm not sure which made it to the final cut here, but this is for a few different reasons. This is definitely a kind of messier looking retrograde, but messy doesn't necessarily mean bad. And just because it's a retrograde doesn't have to mean it has to be a negative experience. I'm sure there are things that will be maybe annoying, or that you'll maybe hit some snags in a few things, but this might be to your benefit. This might actually be a blessing for you. So let's talk about why that is. Number one, Mercury is in Sagittarius during this whole retrograde. Mercury is in detriment Sagittarius, meaning it's a really unconventional place for Mercury to express its energy. Mercury being the planet of communication, messages, information. Mercury likes precision and facts and details and figures and, exact solutions to things. And Sagittarius is more broad in scope. It's more speaking passionately about its beliefs, sometimes at length. Sometimes this can be a blunt placement that doesn't necessarily know how to edit itself. So, Mercury being in detriment during this retrograde does maybe speak to, perhaps maybe there's going to be a little bit more blips with technology, or a little bit of maybe more hassle with travel, with those sort of typical Mercury retrograde things. This might feel like an extra Mercury retrograde-y energy. But I still think, Mercury in Sagittarius is it's a lot of fun. So I think actually we should have fun with this energy and embrace the mess that is this retrograde. Mercury is also going to be opposing Jupiter and square Saturn during this retrograde. So there's this sort of awkward push-pull dance that Mercury is going to be doing during this retrograde. And because Mercury is going to be opposing Jupiter specifically on the 4th of December, and then when it's direct again, this will be on the 26th of December as well. But we're going to feel this energy the whole time. With Mercury opposing Jupiter, there's often, I think in the collective, we may feel this energy of making these big, grandiose plans, or having these big dreams for ourselves, having a lot of optimism and confidence about where we're going, right? But oftentimes we can miss the exact details of how we're going to achieve that thing, or miss some really important information that's sort of lost in the details. So I would advise you, if you are thinking about making some big decisions or making some big plans, to really go over the facts. And if you can help it during Mercury retrograde, maybe just wait on some things. Maybe there's some information that you might be missing. Like, for example, not a great time to buy a car. A car is ruled by Mercury. It's transportation. But people do things in Mercury retrograde without realizing it's Mercury retrograde, and it goes fine. But if you can help it on contracts, big decisions, big financial purchases, kind of wait until it's direct on the 15th. It's not that long of a transit. If you do have to do something because life happens, maybe have someone else take a look at that fine print, for example. So we also have a square to Saturn in Pisces, and where Jupiter is this planet of expansion, it's like, yes, girl, go off, you can do anything. This square to Saturn is a much more restraining and limiting influence, and that energy is really coming through on the 7th of December as well as the 27th, when Mercury is direct. So this is sort of, we have this yes, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to be free. I'm going to make these big plans. And then Saturn's coming in and saying, well, how are you sure you've got the plan right? How about those details? How exactly are you going to, let's come back down to earth a little bit. Let's get grounded and get realistic. It can also just feel like maybe some snags in your plans, or maybe some like delaying energy or restraining or limiting. So we have this expansive energy and this limiting kind of energy at the same time. Mercury in Sagittarius really is also going to have us asking like big picture stuff, like what is really giving you meaning in your life? What is sort of giving you that spark? What is it that you are passionate about? Are you living that passion? And this is also going to connect us all collectively to speaking truth to power, speaking about our beliefs. Again, connecting to these sort of broader concepts. It's interesting too, because Mars actually goes retrograde on the 8th of December as well. And I'm going to talk about this for a while, because the last Mars retrograde was really a very interesting experience for me, and it really made me pay attention to them more. So with Mars going retrograde on the 8th at the same time as Mercury, this is really, if you're finding yourself going more inward, really reconsidering a lot of things, reconsidering what is giving you fire, what you're feeling passionate about, or if you're finding yourself really kind of spinning your wheels over the next couple weeks, know that this could be to your benefit, even though it doesn't look like it right now. This really could be a blessing in disguise. And just know that you're not going to be alone in that. And that may be that may be kind of this sort of ongoing theme through this Mercury retrograde and then going into this Mars retrograde. It's like, what is really feeding you in your life, essentially? Another date that I wanted to mention to you, 2 dates actually. One is December 5th. That's going to be when Mercury's Cazimi the sun. And that is the point during every Mercury retrograde in which Mercury crosses over the sun exactly. So this is going to be exactly in the heart of the sun. And the sun is thought to have a purifying, elevating influence on Mercury, sort of granting it the ability to really in your life get some clarity around a subject, or have like a divine insight, or a sudden or like a sudden sort of insight on something. So and maybe even connected to the topic or the life area that Sagittarius is connected to in your chart, which I will talk about in the rising sign forecast as well. So maybe pay more attention to the thought that comes in that feels really, really wise, and maybe write that down. We also have a full moon that is going to be coming through on the 14th. And that one is interesting because that full moon is in the sign of Gemini, which is a Mercury-ruled full moon. So that is right at the end of this Mercury retrograde cycle. And that to me feels like this like aha, sudden illumination, conclusion, maybe some new information presenting itself around that time, or new information that you didn't have before. It has this very kind of it's like that Mercury direct station. When it goes direct, it's going to be very, very pronounced on that full moon. So let's talk about one more thing, and then we will go ahead and talk about our rising sign horoscopes. Okay, I just wanted to go over a little bit of to do things during Mercury retrograde, or just some things to be aware of. First of all, again, this is a time of reviewing, of going back over things, maybe even of completing unfinished projects. Maybe there are like things that you need to return to the store that you've been putting off, or just things that you've sort of been putting off that have to do with anything Mercury related. So whether that's technology, that's information, or it could be, things from the past kind of resurfacing for you to deal with. And again, this doesn't have to be super profound. It could be really, really very mundane, right? I would also give yourself a little buffer when it comes to travel plans, or give yourself extra time to get places if you have travel plans, and just expect that sometimes things are a little wonky during Mercury retrograde. I would say backup stuff, backup data that is sort of computer related or whatever. Make sure that your iCloud or whatever has like actually uploaded, because you just never know with Mercury retrograde. Will I follow through with some of these things? Probably not, but if you have really sensitive information and you're like, let me just back it up to the cloud or somewhere else in case your hard drive fails. That's always a good idea to do in Mercury retrograde. And in general, this does feel like a time to just be okay with not knowing how everything fits in your life, essentially. Like I said, embracing the mess. And we're going to get through it like we get through every Mercury retrograde. And it may end up not being that big of a deal for you. And if it is a big deal, hopefully it's something that actually helps you in the long run. So let's talk about where this energy may land for you based on your rising sign. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the horoscopes for the rising signs. So, if if you have an accurate birth time, then you're going to want to find your rising sign or your ascendant. It's the same thing, and listen for your rising sign. If you don't know that, then listen for your sun or your moon, depending on if you know that you're born in the day or maybe moon at night. If you don't know either of those, if you don't know if you're born during the day or night, that's fine. Just listen for whatever resonates more. However, rising sign will be the most accurate. And know that I am not looking directly at your individual chart. There's a lot more going on for you individually than I can see right now. For that, you might want to book a personal reading with me. So, first of all, Mercury is retrograde for Aries rising. Excuse me, Aries rising. Mercury is retrograde in your 9th house of higher education, long distance travel, your beliefs and your philosophy. You could be thinking a lot more deeply, frankly, about what you believe, your political beliefs, your spiritual beliefs. You could be really concentrating or focusing on like learning some sort of higher concept. It could be spirituality, astrology. It could be something related to like the sciences or whatever it is that your sort of mind, your mind is going to be focused on gathering knowledge and wisdom. You may be sort of hitting some, you might be sort of like bumping up against maybe some stuff in your subconscious because it is going to be squaring Saturn in your 12th house of your unconscious mind, of things that are hidden to you. So it really, to me, feels maybe more like a deeply introspective time. It is possible that you're sort of reviewing or reconsidering travel plans, or even in rare cases, maybe things related to the courts as well. That's very 9th house. But it does look very sort of mentally focused, maybe communication focused as well, as it is opposing Jupiter in your 3rd house of communication. For Taurus rising, we have Mercury retrograde in your 8th house. This might have you reconsidering or reviewing like financial matters that are connected to other people. So this could be things like related to like insurance or bank accounts that you are connected to that aren't just solely your own, like investment accounts or retirement accounts, or things with other people's financial assets sort of entangled with. This is interesting because you have Jupiter, the planet of expansion, in your 2nd house of money, and it's been there since mid-May 2024. So perhaps you have been trying to expand your income, your assets, or sort of simply growing your self-worth so you can make more money. So there's just something financial that you are figuring out right now. It could also be that you're maybe examining deeper things like connected to like emotional baggage, because the 8th house is not simply other people's money. It's also like things connected to death and like catharsis and psychology. So there could be something deeper kind of happening under the surface for you. And you might simply just be trying to figure out how to expand your wealth, or really kind of retooling it or figuring out what's going on with finances. So that's kind of what I see for you. There might be some snags that you're figuring out with that, because Mercury will be squaring Saturn during that time for you as well. So that's kind of what I see for you. For Gemini rising, Mercury is your ruling planet. So any Mercury retrograde, you're going to feel a little bit more significantly than maybe the average person would. So for you, Mercury is retrograde in your 7th house of partnership. You could be reconsidering or reviewing partnership dynamics. How you operate in partnership, what you bring to the table. You might be considering, your various alliances and contractual agreements and partnerships and who you want to partner with. Again, it doesn't have to be the super deep thing. Not every Gemini ascendant is going to be like, I think I'm breaking up with my partner. Like, that could be true for you, but for most people, it's probably not going to be that. But yeah, you might really be thinking about like, do other people show up for me the way I show up for them, right? You do have Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter, you maybe have been feeling this feeling of like trying to maybe you have been feeling opportunities in personal expansion. Well, at the same time, there's been this crunchy energy for you all year because Jupiter has been square Saturn in your career sector. So maybe feeling that, maybe feeling like career is like a big responsibility for you right now, and there's a lot of work to do in career, kind of limiting this sort of Jupiterian free time that you want. So this Mercury retrograde for you, I think you're going to be looking at many different life areas, really kind of big tentpole life areas, partnerships, career, your self-image, how you sort of live your life. So for you, I think it's going to be a couple different life areas. Don't expect to figure everything out overnight, but I think Mercury retrograde is going to offer you a lot of deeper insight than it's going to offer you a lot of deep insight that you may not have gained if Mercury didn't go retrograde, essentially. So, and also too, I'm also going to say home and family things because Mercury does rule home and family. So again, big tentpole stuff for you. Cancer rising, Mercury is retrograde in your 6th house of health and work, your work routines, to-do lists, and also pets. So you could be figuring out simply how you go about your day, like how you go about getting things done, like the proper health protocols for you, the proper wellness protocols. Does this exercise work for me? Does this food work for me? Does this type of work for me anymore? Maybe altering, working from home or going into the office or things connected to that. It also could be, again, like I mentioned, pets are a 6th house matters too. It could just be figuring out like logistical things connected to your animals. I'm also going to mention as well, Mercury is opposing Jupiter in your 12th house. Jupiter, that planet of expansion, has sort of been in the sector of your chart that has to do with like hidden things that are unconscious to you. So it's sort of like there's this duality maybe of like Jupiter helping to expand spirituality, feeling expansion or hidden blessings in your life. It's like this Mercury retrograde for you is just not very glamorous. It's sort of like, how can I feel better maybe in these areas of life that are pretty hidden, that have to do with health or wellness or like dealing with my sort of unconscious mind. So I think it's a more kind of hidden Mercury retrograde for you, and also just dealing with some very kind of boring stuff, frankly, but really, really important stuff. So that's kind of what I see happening for you. For Leo rising, Mercury is retrograde in the 5th house. That has to do with love, with romances, with anything with your creativity, your creative projects, and also matters connected to children. So it could be that you're, having to revisit a matter connected to a child, whether it's like a child support arrangement or custodial arrangement, or just simply just stuff going on with your kid. Or maybe it's decisions around whether or not to have a family. Pregnancy and birth are all 5th house things. It could be revisiting a matter connected to like a romance or a love affair or a situationship. I hate that word so much. I would have felt better if we had never invented that word, but I'm talking. So maybe like reconsidering something connected to those matters. There could be something tricky connect from romance and pleasure connected to finances for you, because this Mercury retrograde is going to be squaring Saturn in the 8th house of people, like other people and their resources and their money. So there could be like a tricky situation that you are figuring out there. This Mercury retrograde also could be like a more like reconsidering social things as well, because it's opposing Jupiter in your 11th house of friends and allies. But yeah, I want you to think about, do I want to create things? Am I connected to my creativity right now? Is this, or reconsidering like a romantic relationship too, or anything connected to a child? Could be coming up for you right now. Virgo rising, you're a sign that I think this would be a more important Mercury retrograde, because Mercury is your ruling planet as well, same as Gemini. And Mercury for you specifically rules you, like you as a person, your appearance, your identity, and it also rules career as well. It's not, hold on, let me share my screen again. Okay, so so if you can see, Mercury rules career as well as how you approach life and your identity. So those two things are always going to be up for review during any Mercury retrograde, but especially this one. And this one may place special focus upon home and family things as well. So you could be reconsidering, reviewing things connected to your home, where you're living, your family, your roots, where you come from. These are all sort of subjects up for review, up for redoing or looking at the past, right? So those subjects are just going to have a little bit extra prominence or have that extra kind of Mercury retrograde flavor to them. You could also be considering where like the balance of home versus work or your career as well, because Mercury is opposing Jupiter right now, and you could be having big plans for your career, or big, like what you would consider to be your goals and aspirations, and you simply maybe just trying to figure that out because that's kind of big plans energy. And then we have that square to Saturn in your seventh house of partnership. So it could be, hey, but what about your spouse? What about your relationships? What about these agreements that you have with others that might get in the way of that? Or maybe feeling, extra responsibilities to your partner, like the last, 2 years or so because of Saturn's influence in your partnership sector. So a lot of kind of bigger life decisions, I would think, for you, Virgo rising. And this Mercury retrograde is going to be simply kind of figuring out where do these pieces all kind of fit together for me. Libra rising. Mercury is retrograde in your third house of communication and okay, hold on. I gotta think. Your opposite sign Aries. I was like, wait, what? So okay. So Mercury is retrograde in the third house. This is anything connected to communication, the mind, correspondences, transportation in your local community. So it feels like a really typical Mercury retrograde experience for you, in that I really would watch that you are making sure that you are sending emails or DMs to the right person. And, if you're going to talk shit about someone, making sure that you are sending it to the actual person that you want to talk to, as opposed to the person that you're trying to talk shit about, right? So we've all had that experience, maybe just me. But that would be something that I would kind of consider for you. It's really like making sure before you pop off on someone, because Mercury in Sagittarius is very much a loudmouth placement. Make sure you have all the facts and information, and also accept that maybe communication might be a little bit messy for you during this Mercury retrograde. It could also be that we're going back over things connected to a sibling, are also things connected to this as well. Maybe talking to a sibling we haven't talked to in a long time, talking to a friend we haven't talked to in a long time. It could be things coming up with your car or transportation, something that you have to take care of, or reconsidering or reviewing something connected to that. Again, a lot of emphasis placed on your correspondences in communications with others. And just frankly, things are more likely to go awry during those. So just be careful with that. You also may be reconsidering the neighborhood that you live in or the community that you are connected to, are themes that could be coming up here. You could be having plans that you're making around travel or expanding education right now too, because Jupiter, the planet of expansion, has been in your ninth house of education and travel since May 2024. So there may be plans, like bigger plans connected to this, or you maybe really feel connected to your higher belief system or connected to your philosophy on the world. And at the same time, there might be maybe a little bit of snags involved in things connected to your work or how you take care of your physical body, and like health things, because Mercury is going to score Saturn in the sixth house. So it might be that, hey, I want to travel, but for some reason I can't get work off, or like work is causing me an issue, or health is coming up and having to deal with health things. Or just how you take care of yourself in general is going to come up for you possibly during this Mercury retrograde. Scorpio rising, Mercury is retrograde in your second house. You could be figuring out finances, bills, your sources of income, where that's all coming from. It might be time for a change, or just to figure out something new. Like I mentioned, I made a TikTok about this, and I mentioned that Sagittarius is also my second house. So I was looking at, hey, why the fuck am I paying so much for my car insurance? I have a spotless driving record. This is insane. I'm going to be shopping around and making a change in that department because it's something I've thought about for a while and I just have never pulled the trigger and I just need to do it. So you might be feeling something similar or just having to move money around or just to take care of financial things, or maybe even realizing too, like, hey, I'm actually worth more money, thinking about going after a raise or something new connected to your income. This is also opposing Jupiter in the 8th house. Again, it's just things connected to finances. Maybe you felt some increase in your finances or things connected to debts or loans, like maybe a refinance or something that's happened since May of 2024 of just kind of maybe expanding some things connected to that. Maybe simply taking on more debt could definitely be a thing here as well. But I just feel like you're going to be thinking about finances a lot during this Mercury retrograde. You're also going to be, Mercury's also squaring Saturn. So you might be thinking about, hey, what does this relationship I'm in mean? This love affair that I'm in, what does it mean for the future? Maybe feeling a crunch or something connected to, feeling that some limited energy, or excuse me, a limiting energy or restraining energy on things connected to fun and recreation and love and sex. It's like, okay, I have to prioritize those things if I want to have those things, or or like maybe the finances aren't there to like take that vacation or something. There's something that you're dealing with on a practical level that is connected to those things, that is connected to this Mercury retrograde that you are going to be reconsidering. Sagittarius, Mercury is retrograde in your sign. Wow, I was like, where is it? Sagittarius rising. I wonder where that is retrograde for you. So, yeah, so you're really, I think, going to be reevaluating a lot in your life. You're going to be reevaluating simply could be appearance, identity, how you come across to others, how you approach life. Like a lot of things are up for review for you. This would also extend to things connected to home. You might be really feeling that restraining, limiting duty, responsibility, energy connected to home and family during this retrograde. Maybe you're wanting more stability, to put down roots, to buy your first home, but maybe you're feeling like there's something in the way. There's work that you have to complete. There's extra documents that you need. It's just kind of like, oh my God, I'm just trying to get this thing done. Or simply, really just because Saturn is going through your 4th house, it's been going through your 4th house since 2023. And, really feeling like I need roots at home. There's a responsibility to home and family. I'm wanting more home, like security connected to home, or perhaps home things have just been more difficult for you. So there's kind of encountering some of that energy. You could be ready to maybe expand in relationships and partnerships. Maybe you've been feeling more collaborations and more partnerships since May 2024 when Jupiter entered that part of your chart. And now is maybe time when you're thinking about big plans connected to partnership or collaboration with someone else. But you might be figuring out what exactly does that mean? What are the facts and details of that? Romantic partnerships or platonic partnerships or business partnerships or whatever it is. There's this expansion element for you, but there's also this there's been a push and pull for you all year in that part of your chart. That's like this push and pull from home and family to your relationship sector that's trying to resolve itself. So you're going to be really encountering those themes of how exactly is this working in my life? And lastly, I also think this could have, career is also another part of this. It's this last tentpole of these big 4 life areas for you. So, you could also be thinking, hey, I might be ready to make some changes in my career, but how is that going to happen? Right. So let this energy play out. Let the universe help you figure out where the pieces are supposed to go. Especially after that Cazimi on December 5th, you might have a little bit more insight. And again, we have these new and full moons that are happening in Sagittarius and Gemini that are really, I think, really emphasizing that you're very much one of the stars of this Mercury retrograde, and that this Mercury retrograde can be helpful, if annoying right now. I think it can be helpful for you in kind of figuring out exactly where you were supposed to go. Capricorn rising, Mercury is retrograde in your 12th house. This is a more hidden area of life for you. This is more when you're sort of delving into the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. you're going to get more clarity in your life when you have time for yourself, when you have some private time, when you have time to meditate or be in nature, or simply going for a walk around your neighborhood with your headphones on and people are leaving you the hell alone. You might want a little bit more time alone here. And I do think you're going to be getting some illumination and some insight, again, when you're in these sort of more private spaces. And again, it's really like very sort of hidden, very psychological, very spiritual is kind of how I feel that this Mercury retrograde for you. Mercury is going to be squaring Saturn in your third house. So you could be figuring out exactly how you want to maybe get your message across. Like, let's say if you're on social media or whatever correspondence is, it really is just kind of giving me more time to yourself to sort of figure out your message. Or you could also just be dealing with or resolving anything connected to cars and transportation, things connected to your neighborhood and local community. There could be some snags around it, or just some snags around your communication and just trying to figure out how to get that across as effectively as possible. You may be having some big plans for the future or dreams that might be connected to maybe your work, because you've definitely seen some kind of increase or expansion in your work since May of 2024, specifically since May 16th, 2024, because that's when Jupiter entered your sixth house of work and of health. And you maybe have like big plans for the future and this big maybe work project that you have, or maybe you're wanting to expand your work or get a new job or something connected to that. But you're going to be figuring out how that's all going to work or play out, because Mercury and Jupiter are both retrograde right now. It also could be that you're figuring out something with your health right now too. Maybe, making plans for like a new health program or a new wellness program or something. But again, we're kind of figuring out exactly what does that all mean. Hold on, my cat wants to get on my line. Say hi to YouTube. Hold on. Kitty, say hello. Hi, Ina. Ina says hello. Okay. So that is what I see for you with this Mercury retrograde. So Aquarius rising, Mercury is going to be retrograde in your 11th house. It's maybe like, so the 11th house is friends, it's allies, it's acquaintances, it's people in your network, your professional and personal network. It's also your hopes, wishes, and goals for the future. So we could be reconnecting with friends in the past. We could be kind of reviewing or reconsidering our friendships. We also could be looking at like, hey, does this thing that I want to manifest is this really in alignment with me right now, essentially? I think that you may also just be figuring out where like that snag or limiting energy for you might be from money stuff, because it's going to be squaring Saturn right now, which is in your money and income sector. So we could be figuring out bills, income, like maybe there's something in the way financially that's maybe like feeling is preventing you from like achieving these dreams, or preventing you from having these like social experiences that you are wanting. At the same time, I do feel like that maybe you're feeling some expansion or big plans energy connected to your creativity, things that you want to give birth to, artistic or creative projects, or maybe you're feeling like now's the time to start a family, that I want to get pregnant, or that we're just because Jupiter is moving through your fifth house of creativity and children. It's also moving through, it's also, that fifth house is also like romance and pleasure and fun things. So you could just be planning like social things, fun things, but maybe dealing with like a financial snag or two kind of during this retrograde. And again, like maybe really thinking about reconsidering, what does it mean to have a family? What does it mean to give birth to something? Or like looking at your creative process and like the things that you are actively generating and giving birth to might be up for review with this transit. For Pisces rising, Mercury is retrograde in your 10th house. So Pisces rising, you're one of the four mutable signs, I think you'll really feel this energy too. Mercury is retrograde in your 10th house of career, its public reputation, as well as what people know you for, essentially. That's under review. So you might be thinking about, what are my professional goals? What is it that I want to achieve? Maybe if you're known for one thing on the internet or in the world, perhaps you want to be known for something else, right? That is sort of going to change. You could also be, there also might be some making some big plans connected to maybe home and family things. Jupiter has been in your fourth house of home since May 2024. Perhaps you felt it had some expansion. Maybe you're renovating. Maybe you're changing where you live. Maybe there have been changes happening with your family since then. So we could be maybe making more plans for the future. Making more plans for the future here. Maybe feeling hopeful for the future. At the same time, there's that restraining influence of Saturn that you've been dealing with since 2023. That you're maybe going to be feeling, okay, I feel I want this home expansion thing or this family expansion, but at the same time, I need to take things seriously. I need to be mature. I need to be careful. I need to make sure I have everything in place, because Saturn in your sign can be kind of brutal sometimes, maybe even taking on more responsibility or like a bigger role at work or like a manager role or something, or just simply feeling this sort of responsible kind of, energy in your life. That's sort of maybe going to temper that Jupiter expansion energy. So I just can kind of see you looking at a lot of different life areas, specifically career and home, but also looking at relationships and self-image and how you present yourself to the world during this retrograde. So that is it. All right. That's all she wrote for this episode. I feel like I wasn't as clear as I wanted to be, but that's Mercury and Sagittarius for you. So thanks so much for listening. Make sure that you like the video if you like it, that maybe you leave a comment, tell me how this retrograde is going for you, and that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode. So thanks so much. I'll be back in a day or two to talk about the new moon in Sagittarius, so stick around for that. Thanks, everybody, and have a good Mercury retrograde.